Okay, so this is a 2017 Jeep Wrangler with 30,000 miles on it, and the customer says that it makes a noise anytime he's not on the accelerator. So we're going to take it for a drive, see if we can't hear the noise. Looks like we're going to be opening the rear ends. Okay, so we got the Jeep in here. This thing's running 37-inch Toyos. He's changed the front axle and possibly the rear. We're not 100% sure. He might just have a Curry cover on it. But the front axle has already been changed. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the rear axle, because it sounded like it was coming from the back. But we're also still going to take a look at the front. Got a little rock rash on his muffler. This thing's pretty heavily built. This Jeep's already done the Doozy Ursham and the Rubicon. And to be honest, there's not really any dents in the body that I can see. It's got a monster front axle. But we gotta find this noise. Okay, so we got the rear diff cover off. And the first thing we see right here is the ring gear has come loose. Now the customer says he had his ring gear set changed to go to a 5:13 gear ratio about 3,000 miles ago. So the odds are pretty good that either it didn't get torqued down or no Loctite was put on the bolts. The ring gear itself still looks pretty good. All the edges are real flat. We're going to have to get our snake camera in to look at the pinion gear. But we can take these bolts out and see if they're damaged. I mean, these things are just hand tight. The only thing holding them in is that they've been smashed up. We're going to have to replace the bolts. Sometimes you can see if there was Loctite on it, but there's so much oil, there's no way you'll be able to see that. But that was our noise, so we're going to get this locked down. And now, because the customer just had both gear sets changed for his 37-inch tires, we're going to have to check the front to confirm that the same error didn't happen on the front axle. So we'll keep you posted here. Okay, still working on the 2017 Jeep Wrangler. We got all the bolts out. It wasn't hard. They weren't really even hand tight. Didn't even have to use a wrench to get them out. You can see where they were rubbing on the carrier. So, went down to the parts store. And I got 10 more. They're 1 inch long. They're a 1/2 inch bolt, National Fine, and they're a grade 8. There's 6 hashes. With traditional bolts, you can tell your grade by adding 2. So you count 6 hashes, add 2, your grade's 8. So to do our job now, we need our 10 bolts, which we have. We're going to need our Loctite. I use red on carriers and ring gears. It's made by Permatex. My gasket maker is also Permatex. This is going to be for our diff cover. It's the right stuff. Got to be some of the best stuff on the market. And then you'll need a can of brake parts cleaner to clean off the diff to get all the oils off so you get a good seal when you put your cover back on. This is a Napa brand CRC Brake Lean. It's good for the price. It'll do the job. Okay, we're going to put in our new bolts now. Now we've went through and cleaned it pretty good with the brake parts cleaner. We want to get all that out of there. All the gear oil, things like that that'll stop the thread locker from working. So just put the Loctite on it. Thread it in. Electric ratchet just makes it quicker. Try not to go too tight because we're going to go through and torque them all down. You don't want to get it tight and then not be able to get your other bolts in. So that's what we'll do. Go around and get all of them with Loctite, and then we'll go through and torque. I've looked up the torque specs on this particular ring gear set. It calls for 100 foot-pounds. So that's what we're going to do. Forgot to turn my wrench around. I put this one in to hold the ring gear in place. So now, it's still dry. Go ahead and put our thread locker on it. There's 10 of these bolts on these Jeeps. So, just take your time and get them all in right. This is the other one I used to guide it. I think we've only got the 3 left now. Maybe 4. It's important too to try and do this as timely as you can because you want to get the thread locker, you want to get your bolts torqued down before the thread locker dries up. Otherwise, thread locker's not really going to do much for you, is it? Okay. Last bolt right there. Now, like I said, before we started this procedure, I had already gone through and cleaned up the ring gear, so all the holes, you want to make sure you blow in the holes, get the gear oil out of the holes. Okay, we're ready to torque it down. Like I said, the torque spec called for 100, so what we'll do is we'll set the e-brake and see if that'll hold it for us to get 100 foot-pounds on the bolts. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to grab a paint marker so we can mark the 3 that we've already torqued. Go to the other side and do 3 more. Do it offsetting. Just need to put a dot so we know we've torqued them. And then we'll release the e-brake. Set the e-brake again. Mark these 3. Release the e-brake and repeat. This job would be a little quicker if you had an extra set of hands, even if all they're doing is releasing the e-brake for you and then resetting it. Oh, I didn't get that one tight at all. It's close, but there we go. Okay. Once we have all 10 torqued, I'll go back through and check each one. As I do, I'll put a second dot on so I know they've been checked twice and we don't have the same issues that we came up with. Okay, good to go. Like I said, now I'm going to go back through. I'm going to double check all 10, put a second dot so they're all good. You don't need to sit here and watch me do that. Get tired of jumping in and out of the Jeep. Okay, so we did the same thing. Cleaned everything, all the gasket surface, and then took it to the solvent tank and cleaned it out. If you don't have looks like another little piece of silicone. If you don't have a solvent tank, then you can do the same thing with the brake parts cleaner that we did earlier on the other surface, because we obviously can't put the differential into the solvent tank. So now we're going to prep the diff one more time and put the silicone on and install the diff cover. Okay, so we've got the differential cleaned. Now we're going to put our silicone on our diff cover. Diff cover's here. So I like to just Don't have to worry about using this stuff sparingly. And then I also like to spread a nice thin layer out, so you make sure you get all your coverage here. As you can see, I still need some more. That's a little light right there. So we're gonna add more. All right, now we'll bolt it on. Now, if you have a factory diff cover, you're not going to have to worry about the bolts. They're all pretty much going to be the same size. But these aftermarket diff covers have different size or different length bolts. So you want to make sure you get that you know where they go. And these happen to use Allen heads, so I find it's easier to just use the socket when you do it. You also don't want to tighten any of them up until you have all of them threaded in. If you do that, you risk not being able to get one of your bolts in, or cross-threading or something like that. It's never a good day. Okay, now same thing. Just zap them down. Okay, now I'll go around and torque them down, but she's closed up. We'll fill it with oil. It's ready to roll. We're still going to have to check the front end. If we find anything interesting, I'll let you guys know.